Hey, Brandon here. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. We got a great show for you today. My good podcast co-host Jason DiRienzo is with me again. We are going to talk about our top 30 future Dynasty running backs. So if you play Dynasty and you're looking towards the future, the 2024 class, the 2025 class, even 2026 future running backs, Jason and I are going to talk about the state of the running backs for your future Dynasty roster. So thank you so much for tuning in. Hit that subscribe button. We do all sorts of scouting videos on here, future Dynasty shows to get you ready for you and your future Dynasty rosters. Jason, welcome back.
Hey, thank you, Brandon. Excited to be here, man.
Yeah, so we did a show. We already did this for our top 40 wide receiver show.
Yep.
So I'll put a link at the end of this show that'll take you to that show after you watch this one. But we're going to talk about our top 30 running backs. We had our rookies for 2023. They're in our dynasty rosters right now. So you might be asking yourself, what's the future look like for the dynasty running back position? Well, we got you covered. We're going to kind of do a fun draft here, go back and forth drafting our top future dynasty running backs. If you play Devy, this is kind of like a top 30 Devy running back show as well. So again, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for tuning in. So we're going to get started right here. I think the first question we could probably just get off the to discuss, Jason, is, questions that I get, especially in my Devy dashboard chat room and stuff like that, is, is there another Bijan Robinson? What is your thought? Do you think that there's I don't feel like there's another Bijan right now. We've been spoiled for the last 2 years. It was all about Bijan Robinson. What do you got to do to get Bijan? He's the number one. He's the king. He's the king. Right now, there's no Bijan Robinson.
No, I would feel much better about saying that maybe Trevion Henderson if I saw him healthy last year, because, man, that freshman year was pretty special. But as far as a Bijan and what he delivers, I just don't see a prospect like that for the maybe next 3 years or so.
Yeah, so somebody might emerge, but we're going to
Absolutely.
see. But what we're going to do, we're going to kind of break down our top 30 into tiers, right? And what our expectation. Things are going to change. It's early in the process. We got a whole other college football season to go before we go to the 2024 draft, but it's a fun process nonetheless to at least take a look, at what these players look like, right? So we're going to get right to it. Let's get started. I'm going to go first, and I'm going to go with Quinshon Judkins as my top future dynasty running back. Now this could be 3 or 4 different names, all right, depending on who you talk to or whatever. But Quinshon Judkins, 5'11", 220 pounds, coming in as a freshman, playing in the SEC, basically supplants the running back that everyone expected, Zach Evans, who's now a Ram, to be the guy. Just an impressive all around season for him. I think he's only going to get better. I mean, this was a tough choice for me because there's 2 or 3 guys that I really could have picked here, but we did a film. My good friend Corey Pierre and I did a film breakdown on him on his 2022 season. Very impressed with his play. Physical running back, has the ability to catch the ball. He's going to have another good season this year. He should get the majority of the carries at Ole Miss. I'm excited about him. Like I said, I could have picked 2 or 3 guys, but I'm going to go with Judkins here. Just what he did as a freshman in the SEC was very impressive.
Yeah, I agree. What he did as a freshman is super impressive. And honestly, sky's the limit because I feel like he's only going to get better and keep developing. So that's a great call here. My guy, I'm gonna go with Nick Singleton. This one was kind of easy for me. I just feel like the younger version of a Penn State running back who's going to continue to get stronger, faster, already looks fantastic, and just has that RB, potential RB1 upside at the NFL level if he puts it all together and gets more pass catching opportunities. That's the kind of guy I'm looking for. And so for me, what I saw from Nick Singleton last year, he just looks like that. He's built for Sundays already, so I feel pretty good about this one.
Yeah, and I think all the guys that we can kind of probably think in our tier 1 are guys that could be RB1s on a team.
Right.
Not RB1s like overall in Dynasty, possibly. But
maybe.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, they kind of coincide a little bit, but you can only get 12 of those guys, right? So so when we talk about RB1 on a team, we're really kind of talking about like on their specific team, not so much in Dynasty, but they kind of coincide. So I'm going to go number 3 here. I'm going to go with Trevion Henderson. Like you just said previously, I mean, he had a very, very good year at Ohio State. Last year, I think, was like a year he was dinged up. I mean, he had a foot issue. There were some issues with the coaches a little bit. But 5'10", 214 pounds. I'm expecting a big breakout, rebound. And he's kind of being faded right now. Everyone's talking about Braylon Allen. Everyone's talking about Rocket Sanders. And everyone's kind of forgotten about Henderson. But I'm not going to forget about him. I think he comes out and puts out 1,000 yards. And I think they're going to feed the shit out of him with the ball because they've got, Kyle McCord probably playing quarterback. And I think they're going to lean on the run this year, especially if he struggles a little bit, getting into a rhythm this year. So I expect a big season from Henderson, and he has a big season. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he isn't the first back drafted next year if he declares.
Yeah, I think forgetting about him is a huge mistake, and I agree. I think he honestly should be the first back taken next year if he has a healthy season. So my next guy is a guy that I feel like, man, you watch him at a high school, he just looks like he was already built for Sundays. That's Branson Robinson. And I know this is probably going to be controversial because we haven't seen much of him, and
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, he's been dinged up a bit this off season. But man, you look at what he could bring to the table. He showed glimpses of that last year with just his ability to just cut and evade at his size at 220 some odd pounds. I mean, he has that perfect size that you're looking for and just strong as can be. I urge you, if you're not too sure about, the projection of Branson Robinson, just go watch the Huddle film. You'll come away like you'll understand exactly why he's up this high, especially as a Georgia running back who should be the prime ball carrier.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely a lot better than Kendall Milton and Dijon Edwards. So
Yeah.
Branson Robinson here, I feel really good about. I just want to see him healthy.
Yeah, well, he's a 2025 prospect, so that's a
Right.
2-year away. Quinton Junkins was 2025, Nick Singleton was 2025, and Henderson was
2025,
2024.
baby.
So we're kind of skipping over, and I'm going to go here with the 5th pick, and I'm going to go to the 2026 class. I'm a big fan of Justice Haynes, incoming freshman going to Alabama. It might be early, I know, but and there's a lot of people that are probably like, what are you talking about? Braylon Allen, you got Rocket Sanders. Are you insane? Like the kid's never even played yet. But I'll tell you, man, and he flashed in the spring game, the All-American game. He looked good. And I just love this high school film. And I'm going to reach a little bit on this one. I think there's some like a little bit of warts on Allen's and Rocket Sanders film for me. I'm going to maybe get a little spicy here and spice up the show a bit. He's a 2026 prospect, so I'm going to have to wait 3 years to get him on my Dynasty rosters. But that's how much I like this kid. He could be special.
Yeah, that spring game, he looked phenomenal. I mean, he's one of the top recruits. I mean, it's him and Cedric Baxter in this 2026 class.
Right.
And yeah, I can't deny that if we're projecting what we think that he can be, he deserves to be this high. So
Yeah.
I completely understand where you're going,
Mhm.
what you're doing here. My next guy is going to be a guy who's been a pretty big riser this offseason. And I wrote him up for the Devy watch and blown away by the film. And that's Trey Benson at FSU. For me, I mean, he just got that prime size, 6'1", 215. And man, for that size, he is extremely elusive. Just his tenacious ability to run through tackles. I mean, he brings it all to the table. He checks almost every single box for me of what I'm looking for in a running back that I'm willing to roster on my dynasty roster for a year or two. And thankfully he's coming out next year, and I'm trying to grab him as much as I can in some of these drafts I'm having. So for me, Benson, man, I feel really good about this one. He deserves to be up here.
Yeah, he's a 2024 prospect. I think it's going to be
Yeah.
him or Henderson, and the guy that I'm going to pick 2 spots from now, maybe, are going to battle it out for the 2021, first running back off the board. What I like about Benson is just his low center of gravity, man. He's just, you can see him run. He's got those thick legs, and he's just, he's the tacklers just bounce off his lower half. He's got the whole package. It's going to be an interesting year for him this year. He should kill it at Florida State. So I'm going back
real quick, Brandon. The comp I see, because I just can't stop at seeing Doug Martin. I see a lot of Doug Martin and Trey Benson, and I like what Doug Martin brought when he was on the Bucs. So I could absolutely see him being a fantasy asset in that.
Yeah, and I think that he's got that compact build that is just he just looks really, really solid. It's kind of Judkins, I feel like, has that solid compact build as well. I'm going back to the 2026 class. All right, I'm going to Cedric Baxter playing for Texas. Jonathan Brooks is going to start for Texas this year, but Cedric Baxter is waiting in the wings. Another 5-star first recruit coming out. Again, I'm going to reach for the stars here a little bit. I guess because I played Devy, I'm prone to maybe reach a little bit, but that's what we do when we play this game that we love. 6'1", 210 pounds. I think he's going to get run this year. I think Brooks is a good player, but if Baxter just comes in this spring and starts to show his ability, he's a great pass catcher out of the backfield too, which is something that, in running backs, we love to see. So I'm going to go with Baxter here with the 7th pick.
Yeah, I will say this about what you're doing here with these incoming guys. We have seen that the NFL, in this real quick, the NFL is valuing the guys that have that particular skill set to be potential RB1s. You might as well take the guys that you feel could project to be a prime running back on their team at the next level. Because if not, what's the point in even rostering them for a couple of years if you're taking a freshman? So I like what you're doing here.
Thanks.
I can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my next guy is going to be Donovan Edwards, and that's part of what I'm seeing with Donovan Edwards too.
Yeah,
I think for him, he will have a particular role, and I can just kind of define it like this: like Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker on the same team, right? Everybody's worried about them. David Montgomery got signed to a 3-year deal, and Jahmyr Gibbs got drafted, and nobody's worried about Jahmyr Gibbs because you can identify his role. I think that is how Donovan Edwards is going to be. He's going to have a defined role as a pass catcher in PPR. I love that aspect, and that's why I feel really good about him here. He's
spicy,
a 2024 guy.
Spicy. I like it. All right. Everyone watching this who plays Devy, you can calm down now. Okay, we're going to finally take Braylon Allen. All right, I'm going to take him at number 8. You're all like, what the hell are you talking about? Where the hell's Braylon Allen or Rocket Sanders? Well,
yeah.
I've come to save you all. Okay, so I'm going to take Braylon Allen here, 2024, prospect. There's a lot of people that like him that think he could be a early day 2 draft guy. Plays for Wisconsin. He's kind of following in the footsteps of Jonathan Taylor. Big kid, 6'2", 240 pounds. He's rushed for over 1,000 yards as a true freshman and sophomore. Big kid. He's got some good lateral movement. We did a film on this channel, you and I, Jason, where we did an all 22 film breakdown. We did see some warts on his, ability, and I thought, he got thrown back a lot, and he's such a big guy, but didn't really showcase that power on a consistent basis. So that's why I kind of think I reached for these 2026 guys, because they're watching a lot of him for the last 2 years. I like his game. I just don't know if he's going to come in the NFL and be that undisputed RB1 on a team, and that's kind of why I have him here at number 9.
Yeah, shoot, man, I got him further back than this, so it's good you got him off the board because it might have been a while.
Yeah.
My next guy, I'm taking Katron Allen, Nick Singleton's teammate. Allen should be getting some love. He had almost 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns as a true freshman last year with Singleton on the same team. So I really like what Allen brings to the table. I think he's really tenacious. Now I watched more of his film, and I am a bit concerned about his overall long speed. Saw him get caught from behind quite a bit, but I like the maneuverability. I think he's got good vision, and I love the pad level and play strength that he delivers. So for me, Allen, and he can be a pretty good pass catcher too.
Yeah.
So for me, Allen, I really like the role that he could play at the next level.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun going to watching these Penn State running backs for the next 2 years. I think they're going to battle it out, and I think both if they both declare as juniors in 2 years, because they're both 2025 prospects, it would be very interesting to see if we had 2 Penn State running backs come out and get top round 3 draft capital. Would be pretty cool to see.
I could see it.
Yeah, me too. They're both really solid players. Right. Coming in at number 11, and this is going to kind of round out our tier 1. I'm going with Raheem Rocket Sanders. So all you people that have him number 1 in Devy, he's finally off the board here, coming off at number 11. 6'2", 237 pounds. Apparently he put on some weight. Again, we did a film, Jason, on him. Yeah. And it's good parts of his game, but there were some parts of his games that, these bigger backs, 6'2", 237, he can hold that weight well with that size. I think the NFL, likes those kind of bigger players. But I just couldn't put him above the other players that I have above him right now, just based on what I've watched on film. But, he's going to round out our tier 1. So all these guys in their tier 1 that we just talked about, are all going to be mixed up, and a lot's going to change. But I feel pretty confident that what we have, these 11 guys, have the potential to really, go to the NFL and either be an RB1 on their team or lead by a committee.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's why they're in that tier. So these are the guys that you're going to definitely want to prioritize to roster.
To target, right, to roster.
Right. Yep. So I'm going to start off tier 2, and I'm going to go with Blake Corum. He's been dropping a lot too. And arguably I can understand. He's going to be a bit of an older prospect coming off an injury. But, man, I just watched the Michigan-Ohio State game again, and you could definitely tell that, that Ohio State – they knew exactly how to kind of stop Michigan, because Michigan was really missing Blake Corum. Blake Corum is a difference maker, and that's something that I truly value in the running back position, is that if a team can't find their identity because they're missing a certain player, a la like Marvin Harrison when Ohio State was missing him, that says a lot I feel like Corum is a lot better than what we're giving credit for, but I can understand the concern as far as dynasty and the projection of older prospect coming off injury.
Yeah, and I think that's probably everyone's like, "Oh, I'm out. He's going to be 23 or something like that." But that dude's
Right.
got some like really good lateral movement. I mean,
Oh,
he really does.
absolutely.
He's got a
His
good
cutting
is
beautiful.
spectacular. So he's going to be one of these
Yeah.
smaller backs, with the Devon A chain kind of conversation next year and next
I think
spring
he's
when
the
we're
same
going.
size as DeAndre Swift. So if you like
Yeah,
DeAndre Swift, you should like Blake Corum.
yeah, exactly. So, with the next pick here, 13th overall, I'm going to go with Jace McClellan, Alabama running back, 2024 prospect. I would imagine he's probably would come back for his senior year. So he might be more like a 2025 prospect. 5'11", 212 pounds, and he's going to get the rock this year.
Mhm.
And he's going to have a chance to showcase himself. He had an ACL injury his freshman year, I believe. He came back last year. And we knew it was the Gibbs show last year, so I'm not really worried about that. But it's really going to be McClellan, and Roydell Williams is sharing, I think, the load early in Alabama. He showcased a little bit of his hands last year. You and I believe we did a film on him on this
We
YouTube
did.
channel,
Yes,
right? And I think we both came away kind of impressed. Like, yeah,
absolutely.
he's
I
got some
love him.
foundation skill that I think with another good year, 2 years away from his ACL injury, he could be a really, really big riser this year if he comes out and showcases some good lateral movement,
Mhm.
contact balance, catches the ball out of the backfield. He could be a sneaky riser. So he's who I chose here at 13th overall.
Yeah, I think he could be one of the biggest risers for sure. They don't even know who their starting quarterback is. They're going to want to run the ball. I think
Mhm.
McClellan could have a big season. Yeah, so I'm gonna go with Trevor Etienne,
I love it. Like it.
2025 running back. Man, he just really went off on a Florida team that just had
Yeah, he
no
did.
identity last year. They definitely showcased the running the ball, but you could see the explosive nature that he has, just off the snap, and the cutting ability, the acceleration in the first, second level, the long speed. I like everything that he brings to the table, and he's got good size at 5'9", 213. Yeah, I would be looking to target ETN for my dynasty rosters as much as I can.
Yeah, he flashed a lot of great lateral
Yeah,
movement, man, on that film. I mean, in Florida last year, that stop, cut, go ability, acceleration, cutting to the outside. So and he works out with his brother, by the way, with all NFL players in the offseason. So he's rubbing shoulders with his brother, and he's got aspirations to join those guys. And
right.
he's going to be a hard worker. He's going to try and do everything he can to be just as good as his brother, if not better.
Yeah,
The 15th pick here, I'm going with Will Shipley. I'm going to have to be honest with you, Jason. I watched a couple Will Shipley films. I'm going to be doing a film breakdown with Corey Pierre. I cut up some all 22 film. We're going to be posting that in a couple weeks, and kind of liked him a little bit more than I thought after watching him this past season. Dug in a little deeper. I don't think he's going to be an RB1 on a team, but I think he's got a good overall skill set where I think he could be a solid part of a committee. And a lot of the backs that were drafted this year in 2023 are all going to be part of a committee back, right? We didn't have a
right.
lot of guys coming out that were RB1s, but they're still got, late day two draft capital. They still might get in a good landing spot. So I'm going to go with Will Shipley here based on everyone else on the board. There's some like flyers that I want to go with, but he's going to have the pedigree, 5 star. He's a super big athlete. He played all sorts of lacrosse in high school, but he's just an athlete. I think he might take a step forward this year. So I'm going to go with Will Shipley here with the 15th pick overall.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's good, honestly. I mean, I do like Shipley. I just think that he belongs kind of like where we have him in that
Yeah.
tier too. I think he's exactly what you said, just kind of complimentary type of back, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's what the
Mhm.
NFL is doing now.
That's right.
My next guy is gonna be Devin Neal. I like the size of 5'11", 210. He's been really productive for Kansas over the
He is.
last 2 years. Had 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns, only has 2 fumbles in 2 years. And I just feel like there's a lot to like about him as far as just the way his cutting is. I like the acceleration. I think his vision's good. I think it could be a little bit better. But he's going on his 3rd year, and because you had some inside info that he was dealing with a foot injury for a
Right.
little while
Right.
that nobody really understood or knew about. So I think if we have a healthy Devin Neal, like I think he could really place himself in consideration to kind of move up, maybe some spots of some guys we're talking about based on athleticism upside.
Yeah, I
So I
like
really
it.
like Devin Neal here.
I like it. I think he's going to be our next film review player.
I like that even more. Let's do
Okay,
it.
so I got some really good film on him that I'm starting to get prepared
Nice.
for us. So we're going to be able to take a look at some. He had some really big productive games last year. All
He
right,
did.
that's so
Yeah.
that rounds out like our tier two guys that we feel as though we know a little bit about. We've seen these players play for a year or two that we feel pretty good about. So tier three, we're going to run through these maybe a little bit quicker. So these players are guys that have projection. They're not probably where we think they should be to get where they need to be as far as draft capital, but guys that we have our eye on that we think with a good season coming up here in 2023, they can increase their draft stock. So I'm going to start us off here, 17th overall on tier three. I'm going to go with Ruben Owen. He's an incoming freshman going to Texas A&M. As we know, a chain, he's off to the Miami Dolphins. They have Amari Daniels and Le'Veon Moss, who I think are kind of just Jags for me. I haven't really watched a ton of them, but there's a lot of excitement in Aggie land right now for Ruben Owen coming in here, and there's talk of him, getting a early share in that backfield. So he's a Jimbo Fisher guy who, got was heavily involved in his recruiting process. He's got the speed, he's got the hands. He's a 2026 prospect, 6 foot, 200 pounds. So if he comes out and gets a lot of run here at Texas A&M this year and flashes and showcases, I think he's going to put himself on the future NFL map.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that. My next guy here is gonna be basically almost not a bias thing, but I just can't quit him, man. That's
I can't
Marshawn
either.
Lloyd.
I can't
Uh,
either.
I really believe in what I saw from him in high school coming in. He just looked like one of those guys that it was
Yeah.
going to translate really well. Look,
Yeah.
it didn't go well in South Carolina for Kevin Harris either, and he was just an unbelievably productive running back as well. Now Lloyd's getting a fresh start at USC, and I feel really good about what I saw in the spring game. Even though it was just a catch and not a run,
Mhm.
the elusiveness is there, and that makes me feel like he's healthy.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I've been watching high school ball for probably 3 or 4 years, and I gotta say Lloyd was probably one of the guys that I was most excited about 2 years ago when he
Completely
came
agree.
out, and
Yeah,
I drafted him in every freaking
me
C2C
too.
league, Devy league, and everything, so I've got shares just sitting on my bench, so I'm with you there. I really hope it has,
Yeah.
he really has a good year at USC. So I'm going to go with Jarquez Hunter here at number 19. I started watching some film in the last 3 weeks. 2025 prospect. I think he's a 2024 prospect. I think he's going to be a true junior this year. 5'10", 212 pounds. For 2 years, he's averaged over 6.5 yards a carry. He had 17 receptions in 2022, so he can certainly catch the ball in the backfield. But as we know, Tank Bigsby's gone. Hunter got into a little bit of problems at school, with some stuff off the field stuff that from my research, I feel like has been kind of, finalized and is off, but he's going to be playing this year. And as far as I know, anyway, unless you've heard something different, but I think he's going to get the rock a lot in Auburn. And I think he has the ability possibly to really showcase himself. I mean, I like his size, 5'10", 212. I didn't realize he was that big. And if he is that big, he's got some skill. I mean, I think he could be a riser.
Yeah, he definitely has some skill. I don't know about the off-season stuff. I'm not sure if it's been finalized or not. If it hasn't, that's one of the only reasons why
Exactly.
I'm just kind of staying off of that. And it's freaking Auburn. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, he's definitely talented for sure. So I
Mhm.
can understand the pick here. I'm going with Cameron Seldon. Going to be a true freshman going to Tennessee, looked phenomenal in the spring game, just has that versatility as a runner, pass catcher. And for me, that pass catching ability at his size at like the 6'2", 215, 220 area, I'll take that all day long from a true freshman who's already showcasing himself enough to where I'm not sure Tennessee wants to keep him off the field. I think he's better than everybody else in that backfield. So for me, Cameron Seldon, I feel pretty good about the athletic upside of him being a pass catcher with that size to go with it.
Yeah, so we're going to be getting a lot of buzz. I mean, at that spring game, he had a good game, like you mentioned, and
Mm-hmm.
he's got a lot of people watching him right now. With the next pick, 21st overall, I'm going to go with Kendrick Riscano. He is a 2026. He is an incoming freshman, 6 foot, 210 pounds. Liked his film. He's going to be playing alongside Judkins, who was the first pick that I took in this show. Ulysses Bentley is a smaller, explosive player, so he might have to wait a little bit. I think if Bentley remains healthy, he's probably going to be the second guy in command. But I'll tell you, Lane Kiffin loves this kid. I like his high school film. It's kind of like a flyer here for me. I really like what I saw. I've drafted him in all my C2C supplemental drafts, and I think he could possibly really get some play early on as a freshman and could be a riser.
I initially told you that I didn't really like him that much. I found a lot more film. I'm completely on board. His versatility as a pass catcher as well
Yeah,
is
exactly.
unbelievable.
Mhm.
So I could definitely see the value. I'm going with Carson Steele here,
It's
coming over from
interesting.
Ball State, going to UCLA. So here's the thing about Carson Steele, and I'll say this briefly. I love the tenacity of Carson
Yeah,
Steele. I actually think he's got pretty good agility for his size. I think he's like 6'1", 215. So he's got that size area. It's the overall athleticism I'm not too sure about, but man, he just understands how to keep that pad level low, deliver a blow. And I think at UCLA, I mean, if we saw Zach Charbonnet, who I think needed a new environment to kind of
right.
flourish, I think Carson Steele could just go crazy at UCLA. So I mean, he had 1,500 yards last season. He was productive the year before that. And he's an outstanding pass catcher too. Got to love the long blonde He-Man hair. So
I know.
I'm all about it. So
Yeah,
Carson Steele, I think there's upside there. I'm just not sure about the athletic
oh,
upside.
oh, stop it. You don't, you just like the hair. That's all,
I do like I'm jealous.
I know it's, I could see that. All
Yeah.
right. With the 23rd pick, I'm going to go with Quentin Joyner. He is an incoming freshman, 2026. You can tell we're getting spicy here with these picks.
Mhm.
5'10", 200. The spring game breakout was really good. He played in the All-American game. He showcased there as well. His high school film I liked. And, you just mentioned Marshawn Lloyd is going to be the guy at USC. So we might have to wait a little bit, but I really like what I saw with Joyner. He's a high recruit coming in, not so much from 24/7 Sports, but on Three Rivals and ESPN have him pretty high. I like what I saw at the spring game. I like his low center of gravity, his pad level, his shiftiness. He caught a couple passes as well. So I'm all in on the Joyner kid.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm excited about him too. He's one of my favorites coming in. I'm gonna go with Jaquindon Jackson here. I think once we get to these later parts, I'm looking for some upside, whether
Yeah,
it's athleticism or play strength with the pass catching ability.
right.
And I feel like Jaquindon Jackson has all three. I just started watching a lot more of his Utah game, and man, I think there's definitely something there. He's learning because he's a converted quarterback,
Right.
but from what he's still learning, he's got a lot to be desired as far as like his pass catching and the nuance, but the athletic upside, the speed, acceleration, just his brute mentality of running through tackles and play strength and functional strength, it's all there. I'm there for the upside.
Yeah, I like it. So I'm going to go with Jam Miller. It was Jamarian Miller, but he's now changed his name to Jam Miller. Alabama running back, 2025 prospect. As we just talked about, Gibbs is gone. We just talked about McClellan, who's going to be the guy playing with Roy Dale Williams. But Miller was a high prospect coming out. Last year or 2 years ago. It was last year. Last year, yeah, it was
Last
last
year.
year. Yeah.
Yep.
So I really like this high school film. And as we know at Alabama, usually it's the guys that, they wait their turn and stuff like that. So it's another one of these assets that have been kind of forgotten. And I know Alabama's always going to have great running backs, right? So, but they
Right.
always seem to go, if Roydale Williams is getting run, I mean, and he's an average player to me. I mean, I don't see an NFL future really for him as like a starter or anything. I think Jam Miller's a much better player than him. So I might have to wait on this pick, but I would think if McClellan declares, if he does declare, and Wardell Williams, I don't believe is eligible for another season after this. I mean, Jamari Miller might get an opportunity to be at least share that backfield and showcase his skill, but I think he's got some skill and ability.
Yeah, I like Jam Miller. Personally, I'm rooting for him. I want to see him play so bad. Um, my next guy is I'm going to Javante Barnes out of Oklahoma. He was a true freshman last year, had over 500 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns, and honestly, I liked everything I saw. I think there's definitely some more improvement within the long speed and vision. But again, he was a true freshman, and he should be the main focal point at Oklahoma this season. So I don't think he's getting talked about enough for what he possibly can be. And because of what he possibly can be as a really a potential starter again this year, after getting 500 yards as a true freshman, I'm pretty excited to watch him.
Yeah, he should get a lot of run there at Oklahoma this year.
Hmm.
With the 27th pick overall, I'm going with a guy that I'm really excited about, and I know I'm higher than most, and that's Mark Fletcher going to Miami. 6'1", 225 pounds. He's an incoming freshman, 2026 running back. I think he's going to be the next best Miami running back we've seen in some time. I don't think Miami has really put a running back in the NFL for quite a few years, at least from what I can remember. But Henry Parrish is going to be the guy there. He's going to be the starter in 2022, and he's just a jag to me. Trevion Citizen was a high recruit coming in last year who tore his ACL, so he didn't play at all last year, and I think he's still having some issues with that knee coming into the season. Don Chaney's coming back. Mark Fletcher, man, he played in a high school it was a playoff game, and his size and his ability to stop and reaccelerate and start, and in the All American game, he had a 60-yard touchdown reception. I think it was from Arnold, the guy going to Oklahoma, the quarterback, or no, I think it was Drake or Dante Moore, who was going to UCLA. Just impressive player. I really liked what I saw from him. So I really, really like him. And everyone's fading him for some reason, but I'm not going to.
I'll stand on that mountain with you. His movement ability at that size is really impressive.
I think it looks really good.
It's so good. Yeah. I just don't know if I trust freaking Miami, man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I can't worry about that though. I just can't.
I know.
The NFL will find you. If you're good, the NFL is going to find you. That's just the way I'd see it.
I like that thinking. My next guy, I'm gonna go with Jaden Ott out of Cal. I was trying to identify certain players that I can get on board with, and Jaden Ott was one I've always been curious about. Started watching more of his film, threw a couple tweets out there from some of the film study I did, and I'm a lot more intrigued by him. Now I do question the long speed, but man, his vision, elusiveness, tenacious ability, even at the catch point, he's a fantastic pass catcher. I think there's something there with Ott. So I can absolutely see, him kind of even becoming even better after having a great season at Cal last year. That has me intrigued.
Yeah, he really did break out. He had a lot of receptions, didn't he, last year? Wasn't he like a really good pass catcher?
Yeah, and he looks really good. I mean, there's one thing to have receptions, but how he got those receptions, catching outside of his frame, running routes, that was impressive to me.
Yeah. So, all right, this is my last pick of this process, and there was just no way I was going to do this process, Jason, and do this show without taking Andrew Paul. I couldn't bring myself to do it. And here I am.
Thought there was something wrong if you didn't.
Exactly. And I was thinking, are you going to snipe me at some point here, during this process? But Andrew Paul, guys, I loved his high school film. He's a Georgia player. Last year, I was going to predict that he got run last year at Georgia. And he tore his ACL and was out for the season. And it crushed my heart last year. It was probably this time last year that he was in practice and he tore his ACL. Man, I loved his high school film. 5'11", 218 pounds. He's recovered. He's going to play this year. Probably not starting the season. We already talked about Branson Robinson being the guy that's going to take the thing, but maybe he transfers next year. But I like Andrew Paul. I am still on board. I'm still a believer. He's a 2025 prospect. He's probably more like a 2026, especially if he transfers. But man, I liked his high school film. I just can't knock him.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. Look, once you find that guy,
it's hard
to it. And honestly, his film was phenomenal.
It was.
Like,
I have a film on this channel. Go to the channel.
Go watch it, because you're probably trying to think why is Andrew Paul in there? You'll understand when you watch it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. My last pick, man, I bounced around because you gave me this last one. And I could have went so many different ways. I thought about Damian Martinez, but you know what? I'm gonna go with a guy that I really I want to root for, and that's Richard Young, incoming freshman. He just checked all the boxes on his film. Now, this is definitely not a CFF play because it's Alabama, and you don't know how they're going to be used. But this is a Devy play, and I can absolutely say, like you said, the NFL will find talent. I think the NFL is going to find talent in Richard Young. I'll put my stamp on that. Just the off field, I heard a lot about his intangibles, and the film I fell in love with, man. He is everything I look for. So Richard Young, man, I'm rooting for him, and I feel really good about his projection to the next level.
Yeah, you've liked him. Yeah, we've been talking about these incoming 2026 players for quite some time on our podcast, and for a while. And this is somebody, you've identified as a player that I think you had ranked higher than most.
Yeah, people. I did. There's a lot to like about Richard Young for me.
Yeah. Well, listen, and that's the fun of this, right? Because in the end, as we always say, when you're in a draft, you got to hit the button, right? So, we all have our guys that we love, we fall in love with, and we root for, and that's the fun of everything. But, so overall, guys, there's the show. There's the top 30, future Dynasty running backs. So it's hard. We were talking pregame real quick, before we get off the air here, just how hard this process is. I mean, running back is a hard position because there are no Bijan Robinsons anymore. We may think we think there's one, but I don't see one right now. Now, by the end of 2023, we might have one or two guys that really, showcase themselves and come to the top. The cream rises to the top. But I don't think it's going to be there. I think we got another year of film of watching the 2023 season before we can really identify who even's going to be the first guy picked next year.
Right. I think the best way to put it is Bijan was going 101 even in Superflex. There's not a running back that would be going over a quarterback in Superflex that I see that has that kind of value.
I agree. And that's a great way to end the show, Jason. So thank you guys for watching. We're going to do quarterbacks and probably tight ends. I mean, Jason might not want to do tight ends, but I'm going to force him to do tight ends. So we're going to do a tight end show too. But if you like the content, guys, please hit the subscribe button. Jason and I are really trying to grow the channel, do a lot of shows here. We're doing film breakdowns, trying to really, if you play Dynasty and you're looking for a channel that will help you, scout future, just as my tagline says at the top of my my YouTube channel, we're scouting tomorrow's Dynasty players today. So thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll talk to you soon.